The church has been corrupted by religious wolves. A wolf has a specific meaning, but for now think of someone who comes in among the faithful and corrupts the spirit. This is done in a specific way. By means of the wolf, faith is replaced by fear. The church becomes a microcosm of the world, a place for show, based on doctrine and equipped to display faith rather than practice it, as was true even in the time of Jesus. The model of society that was to have been the church lost credibility, because the church manifests the same fear the world does. Christians see each other, as they see the world sees itself, as a source of risk. In recognition of these and other facts, the biblical idea of church has been reimagined as an apriorium. The apriorium is a deflationary market. Deflationary markets have no unemployment, no poverty, no inequality, no taxation, debt or other issues. These things not only cause inflation, that is what they live on and cannot exist without. Deflationary markets remove these issues from the economy because productivity is increased while demand is reduced. In the free, inflationary market, deflation spells disaster for all parasites and dead weight. A work of faith is a real thing. Works of faith do not generate inflation. The Apriorian deflationary market makes works of faith possible because they eliminate the potential of waste. Believers can bear fruit even in these troubled times. The problems of man are the creations of Satan and can be eliminated by introducing deflation. Overcoming the works of Satan require faith. This is an absolute prerequisite. Satan taught us reality is physical and man is an animal, so we represent risk. We pose a threat and a danger to others, and they represent a risk to us. To reduce the risk and level of threat, society imposes regulations on us, but more importantly, on the market. The market is the interface of man. It is where we meet and exchange property. These regulations seem to reduce the threat that each person represents and reduces the fear we have of others. These regulations appear to protect our property from random search and seizure. Man, the animal, must be caged in by a regulatory framework of laws so he acts in a fair and predictable manner. To regulate and enforce these laws requires power disparities. The enforcers of law must have authority over those subject to the law. More importantly, to regulate the market requires the state to have authority over all property. The state regulates subjects by controlling property. If the state did not have the means to control property, it would not have the ability to control people. But, and this is the real problem, to control man and to control property, the state ultimately must regulate the market. It is not the laws that are the problem, it is the costs the regulation impose on the market. This regulated market is called a free market or a command market depending on the severity of the regulatory environment. What it is really, is an inflationary market. This does not simply mean a loss of currency value. Were it all so simple, the regulatory apparatus must be paid for. To give the state the power it needs, it has to have supporters, who must be paid for their allegiance. The mission of Satan is to regulate risk and fear out of existence by creating a one-world state which owns and controls everything by creating inflation. Inflation is not random or non-specific, it has a very specific and targeted impact on the economy and us. But there is no mechanism in this system which the state creates, which ameliorates the risk the state and its regulatory environment create. The state is the risk. The state and its regulatory activities cause inflation. Apriorian deflationary markets excise the need for the state because they eliminate the need for regulations. Apriorium is a correlate of the church, and the church was designed to prevent inflation. The biblical church is a deflationary market. To bring people to faith is to remove the fear we have for one another. To remove fear is remove the need for regulation. To eliminate regulation is to generate a deflationary spiral. This is a work of faith. The fruit of the Spirit is the biblical church known by its ability to form deflationary communities. There is nothing subjective about all of this. It is all empirically demonstrable and testable. Apriorium is an algorithm or procedure that transforms fear into faith and works of the flesh into works of faith, while deflating the economy. Deflation forces us to turn from competition to an economics of cooperation. The greatest manifestation of fear is the ownership of property, or what economists know as commercial property. Personal property is not a source of risk and need not be included in the algorithm. Personal property is not a significant source of inflation. Eliminating personal property would not help with deflation. If the accumulation of property represents the fear we have for one another, the divestment of property manifests trust. Apriorium deflators are built by divesting oneself and one's church of inflationary factors. The Apriorium algorithm for creating a deflationary market. Apriorium deflators are organizations created to deflate the economy. Apriorium deflators are formed when a few persons come together in faith. Coming together in faith is coming together to induce a deflationary spiral. The first step is a pledge to establish a deflationary economy. An Apriorium models and manifests the faith of the founding members. Each member transfers assets to the Apriorium. These assets reflect the commercial aspirations of the members. This process of capitalization formalizes a new business. The new business is formed to be deflationary in its operations. The deposit made by each person has a commercial or monetary value. The assets donated serve as collateral for the issue of preferred shares. Preferred shares represent the equity of the organization. Each depositor is credited with preferred shares equal to his or her contribution. Preferred shares represent equity and double as a deflationary currency. As a currency, preferred share is contracted to prefers designated by the symbol. Prefers are designed to deflate in value as production increases and waste is eliminated. Inflation is a measure of how much production lags behind consumption. Consumption without production also manifests as debt. All work done by deflators is paid for using prefers. All goods and services are paid for using prefers. Prefers are the unit of account used by deflationary markets.